Today's topic is one most of us don't like to discuss, and that's working our daily work plans. Most of you probably have a computer CRM that tells you which calls to make, which emails and letters to send out. If you don't have one of those available, you need to keep a written log, a manual log of your follow-up so that you make sure you make it. But if you are, like most of us that use a computer, there are some key steps that we can take to make the most out of our daily work plan. Now let's look and see what we can do as sales consultants to get the most production out of these. But before we discuss these 5 things that we can do, I do want to say one thing. I understand that sometimes we look at our work plans and it seems overwhelming. There might be 50 or 60 or 100 tasks on there, and we're frustrated and we really know we can't get through that much. And that's exactly why we need to follow these 5 simple steps so that we don't feel overwhelmed in the future. So the first thing we need to do is not let them get built up. We need to make sure that we complete every task every day. And don't just mark a task as complete so it falls up. Because if you go through and mark all these tasks as complete, you're cheating yourself from the opportunity to make a sale. Some of the tasks that you're going to see are going to be your unsold customers. It could be customers from yesterday, previous days, or even previous months. You need to make sure you call all these people. The ones that were in yesterday, you need to get a phone call thanking them for coming in, and you need to attempt to set an appointment for them to come back. The ones that were maybe a few days or weeks old, you're not calling them to thank them again because you've already done that, but you are wanting to set an appointment. Now, you're also going to have some recently sold customers. You need to call them and make sure that, 1, they know we appreciate their business. 2, we're also finding out if they have any additional questions or concerns. Now, these 2 tasks, they seem pretty simple, and most of us would say we do. But do you realize about 50% of salespeople never make a follow-up call? So, if you have a customer that's shopping you and another competitor, and you're the one making the follow-up call, chances are the other guy's probably not doing it, and you could win that sale just from doing the follow-up. Some of the other kind of tasks that you could have. You might have happy birthday calls. Wish your customers a happy birthday when those pop up. They're going to appreciate the fact that you took the time to call them on their special day. And when it comes time for them to be back in the market, it's much more likely that they're going to remember you and want to come back and do business with you. You're also going to have some long-term follow-up, people that have bought from you in the past. I have a little bit different philosophy on this long-term follow-up than some of these CRMs have. Because a lot of your CRMs are going to tell you, hey, every 6 months or 12 months you need to call them, make sure everything's okay. What I'd like to do is make these follow-up calls, but do it in a little bit different way. Call them when their services are going to be due. Kind of realize about how often they're going to be due for a service. If you know they're driving 15,000 miles a year, then about every 4 months you're calling them for their 5,000-mile service, offering to schedule an appointment to have them come in and get that handled for them. Say, hey, you know what? I realize you're probably about due for your service. I wanted to offer to schedule a service appointment for you so you can get that done. When would it be convenient? And I'll run back there and get it scheduled for you. It gives you a reason to be following up with those calls and not just calling every year. Also, the customer is going to realize that, wow, they're really looking out for me. That salesperson is going above and beyond what anybody has ever done in the past for me. So again, when it comes time for them to buy again, they're going to be thinking about you. They're also going to think about you when they hear of a friend or a family member that's looking for a vehicle. They're going to say, hey, you know this guy John down at ABC Motors, he really does a great job. You should consider going by and taking a look at vehicles over there. If you notice you have a customer coming in for service, a lot of your CRMs are going to say that. They're going to say such and such customers coming in for service. When you see that, run back, get with the service advisor and say, hey, you know what? When Mr. and Mrs. Smith are coming in, would you do me a favor and call me and let me know when they get here? I'd like to come back and say hi to them. It just keeps you in front of your customers 2 to 3 times a year, where then you're not having to do those 6 and 12-month calls because you're in touch with your customers more often. They're going to remember you when it comes time for them to buy another vehicle or when their friends and family are in the market. So just that alone is going to take your follow-up to a whole new level. Second thing that we can do along the same lines as working our work plans and not letting it get built up is we need to schedule future tasks accordingly. You see, with most CRMs, if you have a follow-up call and you mark it complete, and you may even put a note in there that says left message, it's going to have you set up to make a call again the following day. And if it's not the following day, it's some predetermined set of intervals that's been put into the system. The problem is that's not always the best way to follow up. Let's say, for example, you call a customer today and they tell you, hey, you know what, we're leaving in a little while to go on vacation. We're not going to be back until Monday. You don't need to call that customer again tomorrow and the following day. You need to schedule that task for Monday when they're going to be back. There's no point in seeing that thing on your list over and over and over again. That's one of those things that builds your list up and prevents you from working it properly. So schedule it for Monday. And then when you call them back, you can build some extra rapport by asking them, hey, how was your trip? Learn a little bit about it, shows interest in them, and then you try and set the appointment. Along those same lines, if you try somebody this morning on an unsold follow-up and they don't answer, don't just mark it complete. Leave it open so you can try back again this afternoon. You want to do everything you can to get in touch with those unsold customers. You need to try at least twice a day to stay in contact with those unsold customers if you've got a task set for that day. Setting your tasks accordingly is going to keep your work plan manageable, and you're going to get the most productivity out of it. Third thing when working your work plan, you'll want to work your hottest leads first. If you have someone that you know is going to be buying a car in the next 24, 48, or 72 hours, you need to call them early. If they don't answer, you need to call them again this afternoon. You can make those birthday and those long-term follow-up calls later in the day if you need to. But the last thing you want to do is wait till late in the day to start making some of these unsold follow-up calls, only to find out that they bought a vehicle an hour ago, and had you called a little bit earlier in the day, it may have been from you. So, complete your tasks early, especially the unsold follow-up ones, but make sure you complete all of them so that tomorrow when you don't come in, you don't have stuff left over from today. Also, when you're looking at your work plan, hey, you know what, if you've called somebody 3 days in a row and you notice that they haven't answered, look at the times that you've been calling. Let's say it's 10 o'clock that you're calling every day. You called at 10, you called at 10, you called at 10, they didn't answer. You know what? Maybe they're not avoiding your call. Maybe they just can't answer the phone at 10 o'clock. Maybe they're at work and they have something specific going on at work that, hey, you know what? They can't answer your phone call then. And it's not that they're ignoring you. They just can't answer. And they don't even think about calling you back when the end of the day comes. They've got so many other things going on. So don't do your follow-up at the same time every day, day after day. If you want different results, you need to try doing something a little bit differently. So take a look at those calls and see. Fourth thing, you need to know what you're going to say before you make a call. When you're well prepared, you're confident, and when you're confident, you're going to make more appointments. Remember this, on unsold follow-up, the only reason we're calling them is to set an appointment. Don't just call and ask, hey, have you made up your mind yet? And when they say no, you say, okay, thanks. I'll try you again in a few days, and then you hang up. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous, but unfortunately, it's how a lot of calls go. So when you're making a follow-up call, be confident and go for the appointment. When the customer answers, you can say, hey, Joe, this is John over at ABC dealership. Did I catch you at a bad time? Whether they say yes or no, you can say, hey, great or no problem. Either way is fine because this call is going to be short. But when they do say yes or no, say, hey, you know what? I was just calling to set up a time to have you come back so we could sit down, discuss the vehicle, and go over some final figures. Is this afternoon or tonight better for you? If they object, overcome the objection. Keep going for the appointment until you get one. You're never going to sell a car over the phone, but you can get an appointment, and if that appointment shows, more than half the time they're going to buy. So, unsold follow-up, the only thing we're going after, the only thing is the appointment. Don't try and sell the car, just the appointment. Now, what about the customer who doesn't answer the phone? First thing is, if you're typically one of those people that doesn't leave a voicemail, you need to get in the habit of always leaving a voicemail when you call somebody. And if you want to get your voicemail answered, you need to say something along the lines like this. Hey, this is John over at ABC dealership. I first wanted to thank you for coming by yesterday, and I just wanted to take a minute and discuss something on the vehicle you were looking at. Please call me at 713-882-7984. Again, it's John, 713-882-7984. Hey, you know what? And if you get busy and don't get a chance to call me back, it's okay. I'll try you again later. Thanks. I look forward to speaking with you. Now, you really do need to try them again later. If you get a voicemail a few times and you let them know every single time you're going to be calling them back, eventually they're going to do one of two things. They're going to answer the phone or they're going to call you back. And even if they're calling you back to say that they bought somewhere else, it's better to find that out than keeping that plan on your work plan day after day after day, wasting your time on a call that you don't need to be making. So always tell them you're going to be calling them back if they don't get in touch with you. Last thing to remember is if you need help, don't be afraid to ask. If you can't get to all your tasks or you can't get an appointment set with someone, you need to go to somebody that can help you, either a fellow salesperson, a manager. But the more help you get, the more successful you're going to be. Not only that, if you start getting help with how to set appointments, listen to what that person says so that you can learn for the future and start getting more appointments yourself. The more appointments you start setting, the more excited you're going to be about working that work plan. The more you do your long-term follow-up and you see these positive results from your customers, you start getting more repeat and referral business, the more excited you're going to be about your work plan and the more money you're going to be making. Now, does this seem a little bit different than the way you're approaching your work plan right now? Probably so. And from my years of experience, if you follow these 5 simple steps in regards to working your work plan, you're going to make more money, you're going to have more successful follow-up, you're going to have more repeat and referral business. It's just going to make an entire difference on your overall aspect and how you're doing in life. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on tomorrow's segment.